Iran's foreign minister does not think nationwide protests will change the course of his country. In an interview with NPR, the foreign minister had a message for the West. He says, quote, "I'm assuring them that there is not a big deal going on in Iran. There's not going to be regime change in Iran. Don't play to the emotions of the Iranian people." Violent and at times deadly protests have erupted in dozens of Iranian cities. So far, at least 76 people have reportedly died. This as demonstrators clash with Iran's security forces. These protests began about 11 days ago after the death of a 22-year-old woman. Mahsa Amini died while in police custody. She'd been arrested by Iran's morality police for not properly wearing her headdress and thus showing her hair. Soraya Lennie joins me. She's a journalist and author of Crooked Alleys, Deliverance and Despair in Iran. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, so this is in about the last 12 years, this is the third big demonstration. We had one in 2009, one in 2017, and now this one. Is this demonstration different? Do you foresee a possible regime change? We didn't with the last two.
I think that what we're seeing is more frequent protests, and I think that's been one of the great differences. Every 10 years or so, there's this explosion of anger for one reason or another in Iran. We've seen that probably since 1999. But we've seen in the last few years much more frequent protests. Now, as the foreign minister did say, he didn't think that this would lead to regime change. And I think he might be right. And one of the reasons is because these protests are smaller than what we saw in 2009 with the Green Movement. They were massive. That disputed, some would say, stolen election. They are smaller, but they are across dozens and dozens of cities in Iran, and they are incredibly explosive. These kids who are out in the street, they're absolutely fearless. And even if there isn't going to be regime change, I will say these protests are incredibly important for another reason, and that's because everything that happens chips away at the social capital of the Islamic Republic, because the Islamic Republic and its establishment is just refusing and has refused to reform. It has refused to negotiate with its own people, which is what's leading to these explosions where people feel like they have no other option but to go out into the streets to protest and, in this case, to chant for the end of the Islamic Republic.
Are the people who are protesting a particular age group? I mean, oftentimes protests are done by the very young people who want change in any set of protests across the country. But when you have sort of different generations sort of joining in, it does, at least to me, send a little different message as to where this may be going. What's the demographics of this protest, if you can tell?
Well, you're absolutely right. There are a cross-section of protesters taking part, but I would say these protests are driven overwhelmingly by young people, people even in their teens and their 20s. They don't have the baggage, I guess you would call it, of disappointment, having participated in 2009, the Green Movement, being disappointed time and time again, taking to the streets. They don't have that kind of the baggage and the disappointment. So I think that they're fearless. I think that they're leading this charge because I think that they see a future. They're the most connected generation that there is in Iran, the so-called TikTok generation, as we know from around the world. People spend more time on their phones than they do probably talking to their families and at school. So I think that they're so connected to the rest of the world. They see a better future for themselves. They can see it. The problem is, how do you grasp it? And I think that's what's happening right now in the street, this very fearless movement led by young people.
As a Western woman, it's really hard to get a grasp on this morality police thing. Who are these morality police? I mean, what are they doing going around with it? I mean, I know in some countries they've had sticks almost to get people to do things. What's with the morality police in Iran?
Well, the morality police are known as Gasht Irshad within Iran, and they are exactly that. They're the morality police. They drive around in white and green vans looking for women or people that they think, in their interpretation, are flouting the rules of Islam and Sharia law, and particularly they target women who aren't wearing hijab perhaps correctly, or tight jeans or something like that, or even men and women walking or sitting in parks. In the Rouhani administration in 2013 to 2021, he really pulled them back. Actually, that was one of his primary directives, was to get them off the streets, to stop harassing people, because they're very unpopular amongst the population. People can't go around, or young women can't go around freely without that thought in the back of their head particularly in certain parts of Tehran, that, okay, am I going to get stopped? Is something going to happen? So if you are picked up, in this case, Mahsa Amini, you're taken to a police station where you're given some kind of guidance, training, and basically spoken to by somebody about what you've done wrong, and they call your parents who come and pick you up and sign some documents and release you. So that's basically what happens. And I will say, from the point of view of many Iranians that I've spoken to, they see no point to the morality police other than to, quite frankly, terrorize a population.
Soraya Lennie, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.